All right, well, happy Mountain Day, everybody. So Wednesday, the lab section is canceled, so I thought I would give you a quick overview of what you have to do. I'm going to ask you to do the lab 5. For those of you who are taking lab 5 on Wednesday, please do it on your own. Because the Thursday session is going to, the 3 sections are going to go on. So I'll give you a quick introduction to lab 5. So if you look at the lab, the first thing that I'm asking you to do is to play with python.org. It's a good resource for us, and I would like you to start learning how to use it. There's a lot of information. Basically, the whole documentation on Python is there. So if you go to this link, python.org, you're going to end up here, and if you ask for the documentation, pick Python 3. For example, if I'm interested in string methods, that's what I'm going to type here. And what I'm going to be looking for is built-in types. So built-in types is here. And string method should be appearing right here. 471 string methods right in here. So that's the good section for you for strings. Anything dealing with strings, and I know some of you have already explored this, you found ways to strip or to remove particular characters from a string. Pretty much everything you want to do with strings, there's a method for it. Define, for example, can be used for locating a particular substring. Format we've seen. So anyway, the whole documentation is here, and very often you have also an example, which is very good for us. Not all the time, but this is kind of the Bible for a language like Python. All right, so that's the first part of the lab, is to just play with that, and then you have plenty of exercises dealing with functions. So first I'm asking you to play with functions in the console. So you're going to work with the console in Python and enter your function. So it's good for testing small functions, not large ones, but this is something that is possible, and you can say def test, for example, and you'll see that the cursor will automatically go to the right place, and you can test different things. So now that you've typed it, test is now known, and you can call it. All right, so play with that a little bit. And then I have a teller machine program. So we've seen that. So I would like to go back and revisit things that you know, because then you don't have to relearn and try to figure out how that works. So you know how a teller machine program works. You give it some number, and then it gives you some breakdown in 20s, 10s, 5s, and 1s. So now I'm asking you to do it with functions. So what I'm thinking about here is for you to write a program that will be, and remember, when you start a program, you usually start at the bottom. So def main. And what you have to do is think about what it is that the program does. Well, it inputs something, it computes some number of 20s, 10s, 5s, and 1s, and then it prints it. So the right way to kind of approach it is to say, all right, well, I have a part where I'm going to get an input from the user. Then I'm going to break the amount into 20s, 10s, 5s, and 1s, and then I'm going to display the result. All right, and then so you go about creating functions for this. So you're going to get an input, so get input is a good name of a function, and you want something back from it. So it's going to return something, so therefore I'm going to store this into some amount. And then you'll have to go here and say def get input, and then you figure out what to put in here. And then you need a number of 20s, 10s, 5s, and 1s. And remember that a list is just a regular container as an integer. So you can imagine that the number of 20s, the number of 10s, the number of 5s, and the number of 1s can be returned by a function, which you can call it breakdown. and you give it the amount, and it's going to figure out how to break it down, and it's going to return 4 different things. So breakdown will be a function. You're going to pass it an amount. You're going to do some work, and then at some point you can say return number of 20s, number of 10s, number of 5s, number of 1s. So functions can return more than just one quantity. They can return more. So here, if I'm returning 4 different things, then I have to assign it to 4 different variables. All right, and then display the result. Well, you have to figure out what to pass to display. Def display. All right, so it's very incomplete, but this gives you a skeleton of what I'm asking you to do here. And then I'm asking you to modify that. Challenge 1 is really to modify this and change it slightly. Then functions and stick figures. I'm giving you a program, and it's doing different things, and when you run it, you're going to see the displays a little stick figure. And it's just the idea of a function calling other functions. And I'm going to have you play with that 3 different ways. So version 2 is slightly different. You're going to play with that. Trimming DNA. Trimming DNA is just to show you that, you know, if you're interested in biology and doing some work with molecules and DNA in particular, proteins, then computer science is something, it's a good tool for playing with DNA. So here what I'm assuming is that we have DNA sequences, and DNA sequences are basically strings that are made of 3 or 4 different characters, A, C, G, and T, the different bases. And there's plenty of problems that are very easy to solve with strings. And so, for example, let's assume that what I'm interested in is the sequence that is between 2 markers. And for me, the first marker, they're both the same, AGA and AGA. So I'm pulling this out of a hat. I'm not a biologist, but I'm assuming I know it's a particular problem that people are interested in. When you have a DNA strand, you want to isolate a part that is of interest to you, and you have markers on both sides. So let's assume that it's AGA, and you know for sure that these strings are going to appear in your string. So how do you extract just what's in between here? So that problem is having you play with that. And then finally, happy birthday. I'm asking you to play with that. We've played with that in class. And again, I like to take something that we've done and then change, put it in a different sauce. So here the sauce is functions. And you're going to be passing parameters. I have a little challenge, 2 little challenges for you here. And the last challenge you'll have to submit to Moodle. And basically here what I want you to be able to do is have your program ask the user, well, give me several names. And the program is going to sing happy birthday to the different names. But you see the user may not be well behaved. So that means that some of the names that are passed may be uppercase. There may be a lot of spaces between names. Nonetheless, your program is going to take these 3 names and it's going to figure out how to sing happy birthday to Jorge, to Carl, and to Dave. All right, so our minions are going to be celebrating their birthdays together. All right, then you'll have to submit that. And then after the due date, the solution programs will be available. So they'll be right at the bottom of this page. All right, that's what you have to do for Lab 5. And hope you enjoy Mountain Day. And whenever you have time, before the due date, please do the lab. All right, have fun.